feel like you need to be present in today's meeting because there's a lot of buy-in for you. One of the goals for the whole school is that 100% of teachers can score distinguished on a component in domains 2 or 3. What we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks with how feedback works is truly the secret key to scoring a distinguished in 2 or 3 on some of those components. So tune in, fasten your seatbelts, it's exciting stuff. Also by 25-26, we want at least 30% of teachers to, is this 30%?
Yep.
We want at least 30% of teachers to receive an excellent, proficient, or distinguished overall evaluation. It's more than that, right?
No, it's 30% excellent.
30% excellent.
For distinguished, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think you just
Okay.
take proficient out. And then
Take proficient, okay. See, this is why I'm glad. I work with my favorite group. You guys are my favorite, have I told you that?
I would like to see the.
You'd like to see the data?
Yeah. I'd like to see the video from the other groups.
No, I do not consent. Okay, so, hi, come on in. Okay, so there's some norms that I would like for you guys to keep in mind. These are the same norms that we've always done, but one of them that I really want you to be cognizant of today is to expect discomfort and non-closure. There are some things that might make you discomfortable or uncomfortable today, that's a better word, because of the fact that some of you may not be, and I don't mean this literally, but you may not be touchy-feely caring people, and some of this stuff might ask you to go into a place that you don't feel comfortable with. That's okay. I'm a teddy bear. I'm totally touchy-carry and I can't help it. But some people may be like, no, that's not me. All right, so the objectives for today's PD are to identify one component of domain 2 or 3 where you can demonstrate distinguished practice, identify the steps that you can take this semester to implement feed up, feedback, and feed forward with impactful results on student grades, and be able to evaluate effective teaching practice that supports feedback in the classroom. Let's do a real quick check for understanding. If I'm doing this, what am I doing? Am I doing back, forward, or up?
Forward.
Ooh, look at you guys. What is this?
Up.
And this is? Nice. Feedback, feed forward, feed up. Feed up is where we want to get the kids to. That's like the rubric, the best possible choice. Feedback is what you're seeing at this point in time in the student's work. Feed forward is the next step that they need to take to get to where they need to be. So today we're going to be working with the REACH framework. Everyone at their desk should have 2 pink and 2 green. Pink is either domain 2 or 3, I can't remember which. And pink is domain 3, green is domain 2. So we're also going to be watching a Bogan teacher in action, and then we're going to be doing some reflection. Okay, the first question I have for you, and we're going to be doing a turn and talk for this is, and this is not a trick question and there's no right answer, but it's worth discussing. Which domain impacts the other domain more? Domain 2 or domain 3? Turn and talk. So what I mean by that is, can you have domain 2 without domain 3? Or can you have domain 3 without domain 2? Which one impacts the other domain more? And give it some thought and talk with each other about it. Turn to a partner.
We have to have domain 2. If you don't have 2, you cannot teach you nothing.
What the expectation?
I can conversations when you don't have 2 all down hallway.
And I would go the opposite. But I see how they both probably go over. I feel at first that the classroom environment
That's like more
maybe it's more fun. You know,
If you don't have good
Oh, okay, Okay,
Yes.
okay, February 12th is my expansion.
Overall.
Oh, very good. That's kind of what I like. Te pasa de forma, como estás.
Is the
Oh, I had a
setting.
different.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was watching Friends.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I don't understand how you can do that. No. Oh, well, hey, good thing that's the first.
Okay, I'm hearing a lull, so let's go ahead and, let's go ahead and hear. I'm really impressed with Mr. Jimenez and Mr. Harvey. They had some good conversation going on back there. Mr. Harvey, can you report out a little bit what's going on?
Well, we were trying to distinguish which one is more important between domain 2 and 3. I said it's probably instruction. You have to have good instruction in order to have the students engage, which will affect the classroom environment. He said that you have to have a good classroom environment in order to have good instruction. But, that is true, but if you don't have good instruction, the kids not gonna be engaged anyway. You're gonna lose classroom environment.
Okay, what did you want to add on?
But wasn't the question which one affects the other one more?
Yeah, it's a chicken or the egg question. What comes
Because I'm
first?
thinking, I agree that the environment, if the environment isn't a healthy or a safe environment,
true.
it's difficult for instruction. For example, I pride myself, my classroom is a safe environment. If that environment had not been established since the beginning of the school year, I wouldn't have been able to teach today. But I was able to teach today because my classroom was a safe environment. There would have been no instruction in my room today.
What about you?
We talked about how like instruction is your base, it's your floor, it's what you do before, and its ability to be successful is based on your classroom environment. So you have that base level that's set, and then your ability to build out that classroom environment dictates how effective your instruction is gonna be.
So what happens, let's go a little deeper on this question. All of your answers were correct, and the point of this exercise is to really get you thinking deeply about the domains. What I want you to do now is I want you to look at the.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things I want you all to think about, because Harvey made some real good point. Is it possible to have a high domain 2 and a low domain 3?
Yes.
Yes. Is it possible to have a high domain 3 and a low domain 2?
No.
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 Yeah, because how are you able to instruct if you're constantly interrupted, if the classroom environment is terrible, you won't be able to instruct.
Because sometimes,
No, but see, that's one of the things you gotta think about. Do kids' behaviors arise just out of nowhere, or do they arise connected to the quality of instruction that they're getting?
Are we only looking at behavior, or are we looking at discussion?
Engagement.
Inquiry and engagement that's happening within that environment?
So remember, if you look at domain 2 has what components in it?
Culture, learning,
establishing
procedures.
culture, learning.
Procedures and behavior.
Yeah. What's key in those proficient, sections of domain 2? What key things do you see there? What do they have to have to be proficient?
Interaction, culture.
Talk about domain 2.
Anybody notice that? So in order to get proficient on domain 2, it has to be grounded in academics. So relationships are great, but relationships that don't lead to academic outcomes are.
So, to add to that, we're gonna kind of do this exercise a little differently right now. If we were to take away the academics in domain 2, but you had a teacher who had really good relationships, what would you have? No academics. So you'd have a teacher who just has great rapport with the kids. Maybe, the kids all love to go to their class. They might ask, can I stay in here? I hate my such and such class, all that, but you don't have academics. So you don't have a proficient teacher because you're missing the most important part, which is the domain 3 stuff. So it's a chicken or egg question.
And it's tough.
Yeah, it's very tough.
It's a tough question.
That's a tough question, and I don't know that
think we think a lot about like student-teacher relationship and a little bit less about the student-learning relationship in this. And that's like how you see that the student-teacher relationship is working is their relationship with their learner.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's the focus of the relationship with the learning. And what I'm hoping comes clear today is that you can set up your classroom so that the moment kids come in, they're all focused on the learning.
Yeah.
And I'll be real honest, you all know I've been vulnerable before and I'm gonna be vulnerable again. I'm good at establishing relationships with students. I'm not great at establishing the learning aspect of it. That came a little bit later. I did this thing with marbles to just kind of get control of my class. But the teacher I'm gonna highlight today, learning comes right away in her class. For me, it was like, hey, I love you, how are you, be safe, don't get in the news. You know, like I always cared about the kid. I had a hard time getting them to understand the importance of literacy. That took me a while. So this, what we're trying to get you to see is, without this, you don't have this. So that's kind of where we're going with this.
You got it backwards, God.
Did I get it backwards?
Yeah.
No, without this, the instruction. That's domain 3. Without domain 3.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was opposite.
Yeah, without domain 3, you don't have domain 2. Okay, so we've been a little bit.
You skipped activity.
I skipped what?
Skipped activity.
Yeah, I did it that way because
Oh.
we're running out of time.
Oh,
We're getting short on time. So.
oh.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of a mea culpa here. We've been a little bit all over the place since the new year started. We had some SAT stuff, and then we were doing a little bit of WALD stuff. We're starting to ground ourselves back into the book and how feedback works. And so right now what we want you to do is we want you to start to get ready for the 4 C's. I literally have them back there because I always forget one. But for the next couple months, we're gonna be talking about credibility, care, clarity, and communication, and how if you don't have any of those things in your classroom, you can't really deliver good feedback to your kids. If you're like me, my first year at Bogan, I was a nervous wreck because we had this thing called personalized learning, we had this thing called IB. I was new to the classroom again because I'd been an administrator for 3 years. And then one day I just had an epiphany. If I do IB, I'm doing it all. And so this is very IB because communication, clarity, care, and credibility is inquiry, it's ATL skills, it's approaches to teaching, it's all of those conferences, it's all of those things. So what we want you to start to see where we've been is feedback, feed up, feed forward. In order for kids to receive this message, we gotta get to the 4 C's. So that's the next step that we're doing. We're also listening to you. A lot of you spent money on wanting to know the 4 foundational elements of feedback. And what I mean by spend money, I asked you in the beginning of this PD a couple months ago, that you all have an imaginary dollar. Where do you wanna put your money when it comes to this book? And a lot of you said the latter chapters, what are the 4 foundational elements? And a lot of you also said technology, and a couple other things too, which we'll try to get to, but we're really gonna be going deep in these 4 C's. We know as coaches, Catrice and I, we know that you've been trying this. You've gone into your classrooms. Some of you are very accomplished at this and you honestly could deliver this PD. Some of you are trying, you're not there yet, but you're trying, and some of you haven't started yet. We as coaches are going to meet you where you're at. We're huge fans of Vygotsky and the whole idea of meeting people where they're at. So no matter where you're at, we're gonna take you and help you and try to get you to go to the next level. But we want you to understand that care, credibility, clarity, and communication, and see if I didn't have those back there, I'd be stumbling right now. Care, credibility, communication, and clarity are essential when it comes to delivering effective feedback. Okay, if you could turn to page 73, please. All right, so there's a lot in this care chapter that we're kind of not gonna be going over in here because one of the things that you told us in your data to us is that you want us, Catrice and I, to Boganify this work. You wanna see what it looks like in practice in our school. So I would like, on Friday, when you have nothing better to do with your time, I would love for you to open up this book and read this chapter because it's riveting. So, tell your family, don't listen to me. But what I really do want you to think about is this page 73. Did I greet learners by name when they entered the school or classroom? Do I use learners' name in class interactions? Did I ask learners critical thinking questions? Did I ask learners questions about their lives outside of school? Did I pay learners compliments? And did I offer learners feedback on their learning other than a grade? So these are some questions that we really want you to start to internalize. And we're about to watch a teacher in practice. And I really want you to keep these questions in mind when you watch this teacher and ask yourself, do you think this teacher does these things? And we're gonna come back and I'm gonna stop the video periodically. I wanna go over this. As you know, I love highlighting Bogan teachers, and I'm also trying to do that because you have told us you wanna see Bogan in action. So, when I was learning to be an administrator and I was getting my administration license at UIC, I learned that the secret sauce to a good school is open classroom and shared practice. And I mean, like, that was a really hard learning experience for me because at that time, I was the kind of teacher who thought, I just want to close my door and do my thing. I was a good teacher and I was passionate, but I also kind of thought, no, I know what's right, I don't want to share my practice. A good school is one where we open our doors, we share our practice, and we learn from others, and everybody should be getting coached. So, I'm highlighting Miss Alexander today. Next week, I might be highlighting Miss Moore. I will be highlighting teachers throughout the whole year. So please don't feel like this is the Miss Alexander show, even though it might feel that way. She's an excellent teacher, and I really love going to her classroom, and you'll see why in a second. But every one of us has something that I think needs to be highlighted. So I really want you to think about how Miss Alexander embodies care in her classroom. And then when we're done, I would like you to look at the questions on page 74. This is kind of a checklist to start getting ready. But without any further ado, let's get to this. Is this on? Okay. Hold on. She's very quiet.
There's a book that I read. So I ordered the Legal Love shirt in my home classroom with the Legal Love.
Where'd you get that idea of lead with love? How'd that come to you?
It's a book.
Oh, cool.
Here's the social constructs of reality, which is already another thing. So I let them know that my belief in value. What I was raised was to walk in love. Where we say, I love you. So this book, Lead with Love, I actually have two, another one over here.
Okay.
So this is and all have a sense of belonging, and it's all wrapped around relationships. So I've always studied relationships and I think that happens. So I've always done the research on social emotional learning and literacy.
Okay, so I just want to pause for a second because, well, one, it's hard to hear her, so I'm gonna summarize. She is very in touch with this idea of lead with love, and it's something that she, when I was first going through school, the first PD that I went to, a principal told the teachers that were new, students don't care what you know until they know that you care. And I literally have had that in my mind, and it's been 24 years of teaching. For her, it's lead with love. She's got a shirt that says it. She's got a book that says it. She's got it all over her classroom. So she's really internalized this message. Anybody have anything else to say? I should not be talking as much. Anything to call out to you at this point?
I mean, I think she's showing very visibly where she stands.
Yeah.
Which is a very easy, nonverbal way to get it out to the students, and we know the verbal aspect isn't always what a student requires. And so it's, even the ones who are gonna be quiet, they still have the opportunity to read that when she wears it or when it's out in the classroom.
Yeah, it's just that hidden stuff, and I don't think it's in here, but I asked her a question like, what do you do if a kid's coming to you, because she teaches diverse learners, And I know how the kids talk sometimes. I was like, so what do you do if a kid comes in and says, man, blah, 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 and is swearing and everything? And she was just so calm, and she said, I go back to here and I show them I lead with love, and we are tender, and we are this, and we are this. She has anchor charts all over her room where she helps the kids manage their emotions. That's not something I would have done because I'm so high school, but that's, you know, the kids, she said, they'll calm down once I start showing them what it means to be leading with love. So I really thought that was powerful.
This is a car that I bought for my students because when I came back from Christmas break, I was extremely ill. I didn't realize how ill I was, but my students knew me, and they was responsible because they realized that I was really so out of it. And so they're the ones that made me go into the office. So I bought this card for them and let them know, and thank you for a very nice card that I wrote to them for the class. Because they noticed I was acting different and I was encouraging. I just really appreciated them for, oh, they even went and told another teacher to check on me that because they realized how sick I was. That meant a lot to me that they knew, they said they had gotten to know me, that they knew I was sick. That meant a lot to me. Now, this whole situation here came from our book. The book that you found that first week back.
Okay.
So I took one from there and I brought it back to the classroom and said, how can I teach my students to accept feedback? And so we have care, we just found we do love, which is also pathos, and credibility, ethos, and trust. This is a book one of my students from Lynn about how no matter what negativity comes in his life, I'll always be yourself. So anytime I feel like there's something, you know, I'm acting on my own, I go back to the I told them, you know, that they had a lot of things. They always had to join. And then for clarity, it's 2 walks. I want them to know what they're learning is understand that they're learning these lessons so that they can be better. And why what that record, not just to be, you know, not just here to the lessons, but I want them to come to clarity. Like this one means a lot to me because it also goes with our injury statement. Focus on all of it's connected. So it's all connected. And I want to know the clarity when I'm giving feedback, that feedback that you bring with Ms. Bach and Ms. Hayes about making sure students are aware of what they're learning and why they're learning. You know, and then feedback is going to be based on content. So making sure that they understand the content. We go over this thing, it's all connected. And then the communication, this is a big on communication. This is also from
Cool. Yeah, she knew that.
Okay. And so I just use this for communication. So that when we're talking to each other, that we're speaking in a friendly manner. So that when we're talking, we have to know we watch what we say, we have respect, we're tender, we're watching, you know, we're not pretending to call each other names. I'll make sure that our relationships are healthy. I'll make sure that we have warmth and affection. Appreciation. I want to know that I appreciate that we turn to work. That I care. Because I'm hard. This is if you were love, we learn about pathos. Actually, we're learning some of some pathos. This was also done in the general meeting classroom. And so I just took it and broke it down to, you know, to the smallest form. So now I'm looking at the gap that the students have, and now I'm building on how I can teach. My whole people love me at it. Pathos is emotion. And so this, everything here is about his heart. His heart is love all over the place. The little thing, they come in, oh, people love. And then it's on a shirt. So
She was really taking the idea of branding and sort of your brand is lead with love.
Yeah. So this only goes with the people love. So I want them every time they come in, sometimes this come in with trauma. This come in with evaluations or the leadership issues or things they want to talk about. So the first thing they're going to see is, I love you more, or you just a laugh off me, or you are love, or to be grateful. And so I have noticed that they come in, they may come in smiling, but they will come in and smile. It changes the atmosphere. It's like a safe haven.
Yeah, it's definitely a safe haven. Tell me about those.
when I am talking to them, you know, if I'm talking about a character, I can say, oh, you know, just like that character Timothy in the story, you also have that same character. You also have that same love and respect, or that same, you know, same, just keep, you know, like, that stuff. So, like, the conscience of your heart is connected to your social construct of reality. So this also deals with our everything is connected. Oh, this one, very important, because students, even for me, because I know that, I'm a facilitator, but I'm gonna have to echo your voice. So I have your voice, so if someone is done with the conversation, I'm saying, oh, wait a minute. Your voice matters, so let us hear from another student. You know, let's see what they have to say. Because all of us have a different concept of reality, so we can learn from each other.
And do you use those words with them, construct of reality?
Not that they're tonight.
Interesting.
But I also have cards up here, because my grandmother was going up, she was at a Baptist church, she gave out cards to everyone, whether it was their birthday, someone passed away, so I'm big on cards. So, and it's what they was insane. Every word is insane.
And what does that come about? Or is that a candle?
Oh, it's about, it was,
A candle.
it
And then what about that graduation cap?
This is a symbol that, you know, they're the first one that they're gonna make it, that they're going to walk across that stage. So it's a lot of symbolism.
Cool.
And then because we have, Latina, students and black students, I have both black to represent both cultures. I also have the colors that we do like free color. But I want the students to know that, plus I try to be a teacher, I also teach my students, I mean, we all have one, but I have a lot of respect for their, I respect Latino culture as well. Oh, this one, I love this one. This is from the Golden Boys. And so, you know, I was in the speech line, and I'm like, oh, you know, my students haven't really read the papers. We actually read the article like English, and we realized that there was a walkout in CBS with the students about the war between Palestine and Israel. So I said, okay, how can I take this and bring it to the people of love, which is pathos? And also, I know that ID deals with local connection. So I changed this to, or I used the concept to bring you this kind of informational text and papers. And so after we read the article, the students talked about their emotions. And so somebody just said, they're worried because of what here and whatever. Somebody else said that it matters because it's so people, because you know we read that there were 600 students that, 600 children were killed over during the weekend because of the war. So just getting the kids involved and not just what's going on in the community, but realize that there's something else going on outside of the United States. And also that we have to care first, humanity, empathy, compassion. Also, we were out in learning. This responded to this whole process with caring, with personal, and with work. Intertwining all of these skills together. Actually, I took a PD. So I took a PD on basic history and ourselves. I remember that. And so it talked about how Hitler used propaganda to indoctrinate the Germans and just like the Jews. So he put it in music and books and schooling to the point where they were so infused with this hatred that it became a way of life. So I said, I put love in everything that I do. The students really become a way of life.
Well, thank you for letting us in your classroom. It is a beautiful classroom. And I love how you've incorporated Leading with Love, as well as the IB, global connections, and key concepts and related concepts, as well as the ideas of feedback. You've really demonstrated a lot in this class. Thank you all. So again, this was not about like the Sabrina Alexander show. It's not, anybody can be highlighted, and every week I really want to try to bring this back to Bogan to show that we are all doing great things. So let's talk about this.
Was her lead with love, was that like a personal connection that she made on her own, or was that something she pulled from a PD, or?
It was something that
It's
she.
a personal,
It's a book she read.
a book she read, okay. Okay.
Actually, our network chief read the same book, so
Okay.
his, thing is Leading with Love.
I was gonna say, the guy that says that.
Yeah, they took a picture of her when they came, cause they read the same book, and they were like, oh, we got this, and all the stuff he gives us says Leading with Love.
Okay.
All right, very briefly, before we commit something to a post-it note, what did you notice about her classroom? And as you thought about, well, let me just ask that question. What did you notice?
The message was clear.
Yeah, it was like a master's class in branding.
Yeah,
No
oh
matter
yeah.
no matter which direction you turn, there was always something positive and
Yeah.
encouraging for the students.
Yeah.
So like sometimes, especially in SPED rooms, the kids tend to drift away, and start looking in other directions, so no matter where they looked in the class, there was always encouragement.
Yeah, that's so different from how I was taught to be a teacher, but like she has anchor charts everywhere. Anytime a kid is in some kind of state, she could point to something.
How do you think that impacts how kids feel about her expectations?
They know that she cares, and they know that she has faith that they can accomplish their goal, well, her expectations. And sometimes it's not their expectations, but
So is that learning based or relationship based?
it's a little bit of both.
Would she be okay if they just thought she cared?
No.
What does she really ultimately want? How does she show her care?
That graduation cap meant a lot.
That-
That graduation cap tugged at my heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, like, and she's got all these different, signs of you're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 50-50. I agree with Ms. Calhoun in the sense that it's a little bit of both, but I think the academics is there because, like, for the hard thing, she relates it back to the characters in the book.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what you were saying?
You do see a connection, you do see her pull back to the instruction. You know,
Yes.
sure, it seems on the surface like it's social emotional, but it's not, which is, okay, so just like you said this about yourself, here we see that displayed in the story here.
Yeah.
Or just like we see in the
Absolutely.
story, you're acting it out in your life. So there was that connection there between the academics and the relational or social emotional.
And in this, and the same thing for the Bogan Bites. Yeah.
And she's, well, I mean, I think we've kind of already said this, but the fact that she's an expert in what she's preaching is what also, I feel, it's what makes her class successful. That she's, like, she does this, like, she practices this in her own life and also her professional life. And
For sure, yeah.
and like, she knows, like, she walks the walk, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's
Right.
not just a talk the talk.
Yeah.
And I think that also helps reinforce, some of the norms in her classroom. And, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's definitely true. Yeah.
And it's like wildly authentic to who she is. And the first time I walked into her room was to help with the kid during WIN, and I was like, yeah, this is her room. Because you always like was doing, I'm like, is it in someone else's room? Like you walk in, like this is her. And it's cool to see that like she's authentically bringing herself to this,
Yeah.
which the buy-in from the kids is so much higher. Where it's not like, because in also like her academic stuff, it's like not the academic corner. It's like throughout all of it. It's connected with like her wall with like the inquiry question connected to like the care and stuff, and it's just like wildly authentic. And I think that's what does it for the kids.
Yeah,
It
one
feels
thing
like
I've learned
it's
is
alright.
the kids will sniff you out if you're not authentic.
Yep.
And they see authenticity in her. So what I would like you to do now is either send a thank you note to Miss Alexander or say something that you learned from this 10-minute video. And that's just, I mean, it's hard to be vulnerable in these videos. And I'm like there at paparazzi, tell me about your teaching practice,
Put this on the sticky note?
Yeah, please put it on a post-it note, and then what I'd like you to do is put it on this 9th grade. I bet you any money this will end up in her classroom on the wall. But, and then this goes there. The other sticky note that I would like you to do is think about our objective at the beginning of the exercise. Identify steps that you can take this semester to implement feedback, feed up, feed forward, or identify one component of domain 2 or 3 where you can demonstrate distinguished practice. On another post-it note, please think about either A or B and write something that you want to commit to for the next couple weeks to try to get to that next step in your own practice. So you're doing 2 post-it notes, one to Miss Alexander, saying what you've learned or just thanking her, and then one where you're gonna talk about A or B, the objective and what you're gonna do. So as you're giving feedback to Ms. Alexander, try to make sure that you don't just say good job, but like something that you really took away. I really enjoyed this anchor chart that you did. I see the importance of using text to self relations. I love the heart graphic organizer. I just love all of the little things she has on the desk, like laughter matters, love you more. That stuff really matters.
If you go in her room also and check out what's actually in the basket, she has her rubrics, her copies of the IB Learner Profile, any vocabulary words the kids need. So she doesn't depend on them having those basic things. So when she says, hey, we're gonna talk about the IB Learner Profile, they literally reach in and pull out a laminated IB Learner Profile.
They have those routines down. And so then the second thing you're doing is you're gonna either work on A or B. Identify one component from domain 2 or 3 where you can demonstrate distinguished practice, or identify steps that you can take to start doing feedback, feed up, feed forward. But we're really trying, Patrice and I are gonna try to get into your classes and see how you're working towards A and B. One moment to give me some feedback because you are all my guinea pigs. How did this go? What feedback do you have for me? Did you get anything out of this, PD? What do you think?
I would have people take notes during the video.
Okay.
Like even on the sticky notes, like what sticks out to you within within the space. So I think it's easier to have something to look back at when you discuss after than like, I always feel like I forget something.
Yes.
It's like why I take notes, something that's important.
Yeah, you were just doing it instantly.
Yeah.
Remind people to do that. Thank you, that's good feedback. Anything else? Okay. Did that make sense? Should I have done more turn and talk? Should I have done more? Are you seeing the point of like how this is all getting everyone to distinguish?
Yeah, I like that.
You like that?
At the beginning, yeah. How you tied it in saying that we need both, right?
Right.
And instruction is just as important as the classroom environment. Because I think at the beginning, we all focused on classroom environment, but then you showed us how you also need that instruction as well. Because I think, like many of us did focus on the environment instead of the instruction off top, because we just looked at it and we seen like, oh, the environment, you have to have it, but instruction is vital as well. So, yeah, that
Okay.
stood out.
Thank you for that, Mr. Strange. Anybody else, did the two different color sheets in the inquiry about that, is there a better way I could have done that, or did that make sense? Okay. I really appreciate you all. You're a great group to do this for the first time. Thank you. Have a great day and a great week, what's left of it.